We have a separate business unit which no one knows. I will not tell it here. My investors don't know about. But that unit has only one goal. Flipkart was built. It was less of an e-commerce company, more of a logistics company. Equity capital was no different than debt. पैसे लिए हैं, we have to get back.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, we have Mr. Vishesh Khurana with us today. He's co-founder of Shiprocket, which is, as we all know, a unicorn startup, which gives the MSMEs and a lot of D2C brands the power to own their logistics end to end. Now, Vishesh has been an entrepreneur throughout his career journey, so we'll talk a lot about what entrepreneurship means, how he figured he wants to be an entrepreneur and all of that. Vishesh, thank you so much for taking out the time. I'm going to start with, yours is a very, very unique journey where you have been, you figured out quite early in life that, hey, entrepreneurship is how you want to go when, choose your career journey.
Sure. I think no one has a plan in terms of saying that I want to be an entrepreneur. I think a lot was coming from the needs I had at the time. For me, it was back when I was in college. I think we were discussing this a while ago. I had to pay my own fee for various reasons. To pay your own college fees, and while being in college, you can't be in a job. It was all like trying to do something on the side while I was in college, trying to figure out the means to actually pay for the college itself. And then digital, and because you're in college, you can't really do a business outside that. You can't do a physical business. So digital came in naturally. That what can I do? Maybe sitting on my laptop, something that I can do online. And the first thing I figured out was these, and we were talking about one of the students right now. So incidentally, drop shipping and selling few things online came in very handy. And luckily we had the resources in 2010 to do this. And that's what the first thing that came to me was trying to sell few things online, which was event tickets. A lot of events, and I was in Amity. A lot of students it was a very fun culture, let's put it that way. And a lot of people wanted to, attend these singers, concerts, couple of those things. So kind of having that thing put together was the first thing I figured out. That tickets, they were willing to pay premiums on those tickets because they were hard to get.
Yeah.
And if I can figure out a partnership with these event coordinators and get some bulk and some allocation to me, I could sell that easily, and which took less time and was high margin, as we say.
Correct.
So that made ends meet. I think that was the first thing we figured out. The second thing that came along from that, and I just want to pick up on one thing, right? It's not about you need to have an idea or be a genius to put together a business, right? It's also just try and connect dots, talk to your customers, talk to the people you are building for. They will give you the ideas actually. And that's what happened to me. For my friends I was selling to, they came back saying, yaar, you sent me that email, wo kho gaya, code chal nahi raha. A lot of those things were happening because we were not having that robust API systems and things were not synchronized.
Correct.
And that's where mobile came in 2010, which is a very, very funny story. I thought of building a mobile app, and in 9-10, Android wasn't there. For many people, you won't know the times where there was no Android or an OS for a mobile.
I remember getting my hands on a smartphone in 2013.
Yeah. So there was no Android.
Correct.
So the only phones which were more popular back in the day were Nokia.
Yeah.
And the platform was Symbian.
Correct.
And there was no app store. Like we have today, there was no app store to download apps from because the phones did not even have that kind of functionality to install apps. And that's where, I don't know why I did that, but I figured it out, okay, let's do this. So did some Googling, found some developers based in Pune, a couple of other cities. And I said, I want to build this app where I can actually just via SMS send these codes or these tickets to them kind of thing.
So that they don't lose it.
This is they don't lose it and they have access to it, and which is once it is used, it automatically gets deleted or something like that.
Correct.
So just to organize this, that was the first place. It was again to solve one problem, you try and find a solution to that. And that's where I built my first mobile app. Suddenly realized that mobile app seemed very complicated as a word, but it was very, very easy to build because that guy was able to build it for me in less than 3 days and said, hey, it's done. But the problem is to install it. There used to be a file that used to come in from as email. Then you have to connect your phone to the laptop and install that thing. Now the second problem is, how do I get this app to other people's phone? Now everyone has to get it installed. So I actually said, okay, I'm going to install it in your phones, but I'm going to charge for it. Because it was time taking. So they had to come to my place with their phones. Each and every app was installed using a wire because there was no app store. I think that's how the first company came along. I realized mobile apps was needed, but still at the same time very complicated, and there was a lot of information asymmetry around which money can be made, because whenever there's the gap which you can do. And that's how the first company came along, was a mobile apps development company. And we ended up, actually, that's where I left college, because suddenly I found how much margins were there, and it was actually, it just took off, the mobile apps. I found one company that, please build it for me, realized I can make money off it, which can sustain me as an individual. So no point now. I think I was making way more money than I expected to do after my graduation or whatever courses. And the other company, then word of mouth spread, because there weren't a lot of people building mobile apps in those days. And the biggest and the most interesting project I got was ITC. The marketing teams there had an idea saying, we want to market data. Actually, we want to acquire a market data on what cigarettes are people smoking these days.
Yeah, because that's the largest business.
That's the largest business. And they were launching something called an Arctic menthol. It's funny, I still remember each and every word there. So they wanted to launch a cigarette which was a menthol-based cigarette. It's called Arctic menthol. And they said, I want data. And to acquire those data, they have to acquire it from people who are smoking at pawn shops. So, and iPads came along, luckily for me. Apple came along, and the budget for that project was insane, which was in many crores, which was my biggest project till date. I was asked to source 500 iPads. Buy iPads.
Okay, wow.
No one had that kind of iPads in one store. So I actually had to fly to various cities in each and every shop and buy each and every iPad I could get my hands on across India. So one shop 2, one shop 5. Sourcing 500 iPads was a great task. So they paid for our flights, they paid for everything. So you can just buy wherever iPads you can get. Then we onboarded 500 interns to run iPads. Funny story.
A lot of hustle.
A lot of hustle, yes. A lot of hustle. Like, in short, long story short. So that gave my first exit when I built ITC. The company was on the prime, and we got an opportunity, said, we want to acquire you. With little knowledge I had, I said yes.
Of course. And this was when you were how old?
Again, the whole thing happened in 14 months. So this was just 14 months of the entire journey.
Wow.
So I was 20 back then. Got an acquisition offer with less knowledge. I said yes.
A millionaire at 20.
Easy to say that, yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So then talk us a little bit about how you met your co-founders at Shiprocket, and how did that journey start, and what kind of insights you had where you believed that this can be something big.
Got it. So one thing I realized after selling my first company and starting the other one, which failed miserably, I burnt all the money I made in less than 6 months, or whatever I made for the last 2 years, because we started into an e-commerce business. I suddenly realized that alone I don't have the know-how or the means to do this now. I need some maturity. I need someone to help me get from stage 0 to 1, which was where I was. And that's where I was always looking for partners. I think I always realized that I need some partners to do this business, any business I want to do with me. And my second business had failed. I was again back to square zero, and I was consulting. So again, I had to make my ends meet, and we need some money back in the day. So I became a freelance consultant, helping people start e-commerce websites. And to get that done, I needed developers. So I was approaching a lot of companies who were building these websites on behalf of my clients, and that's how I met my co-founders. So Sahil and Gautam just came from US. They started a e-commerce website development company, and I actually met them as a client, where I was giving them these projects, saying that please build it for me. And we ended up talking a lot, became good friends after 3-4 projects, and found some synergies. And luckily by then I had found my mentors who were saying, yaar, services business ki jagah product mein jao. So spend some nights together saying, yaar, what does the product mean in e-commerce? And that's how the first product came out, was Cartrocket, which was Shopify for India. We built a shopping cart platform together and started.
Okay. No, that's great. And it's said that, it takes years to get to a PMF. And that's the word I hear a lot in the early stages. And a lot of our students here are trying to get to the PMF. So tell us a little bit about that journey of, how long it took till you got the PMF and said, oh, now we have hit something big.
Sure. I think we pivoted 3 times in our journey. The first product was CartRocket. We were doing well. It scaled. We were doing decent revenues. We raised 2 rounds on that product. But suddenly we realized there was a ceiling, glass ceiling as we call it here. It's what we used to acquire year before. It's not the same acquisition. And now I have also started burning, which was the business which was profitable a year ago. It's not profitable anymore.
And CartRocket was more into logistics.
No, CartRocket was a shopping cart. It was exactly like Shopify. It was a website building platform. So I'll actually go back what exactly PMF meant for us and how do you actually realize you have hit PMF.
Correct.
So CartRocket wasn't working. We pivoted saying here, I think the problem with, and we again went back to our customers who were already on CartRocket. We said, you built a website, but any problems you are facing, why are you not scaling? Why are you not getting? They came back saying, here, you gave us a platform which helped me build a website, but what next? I don't know how to get orders. I don't know how digital marketing. It's expensive. It's complicated. So they just built a website, thought कि अपने आप लोग आ जाएंगे website पे, which of course is not the case, as we know.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for people to come to their website without doing marketing. And that's where there was a lot of churn because they paid us for 6 months, got a website, didn't bring any orders, never paid back, churned. And that was where the business started failing because people were churning. A SaaS business is all about retention, which wasn't happening with us. That's why we said, let's solve that problem for them. So we built something called Crafty. We said, what we are going to do is we are going to host your catalogs. We call it Marketplace today, but it was a similar concept where we said all my clients on CartRocket, we will take all of their catalogs, put it on one website, and we will take over the marketing bit. What we did not realize in time is marketing was expensive. You can't find unit economics that easily.
Yeah.
So Crafty failed again, which was again, we were burning. It did not fail. I could have taken that journey of saying I'm going to continue raising till I find that PMF.
Yeah.
It actually exactly did not fail. We always had offers saying we are going to fund you, we are going to fund you, we are going to fund you. But we come from a background as founders, which is very, very grounded from business families. We could not get our heads around saying, if I'm getting more orders, I'm burning more money. Because each order I'm burning 50, 100 rupees. The bigger I get, the more money I will need for survival, which just didn't make sense. The bigger I become, the more harder it's for me to become.
Unless you see a path towards.
Unless you see a path, which we at the time did not. Luckily, now I had my co-founders. So Sahil was this Excel geek. We spent nights running those scenarios on Excel saying, is there any world I can actually make money on these orders? The answer every time came back to you need a very, very high AOV to get to that profitability, which didn't seem possible
at that time.
So again said we need to change. Now what? Now 2 products are shut. Went back to our customers saying, tell me other problems you faced. The 2 bigger things that came out of that e-commerce journey in 15 was payments and shipping is still a problem. Website ho gaya hai, marketplace se order aa jate hain. Some things are still more or less sorted, but payments and logistics again came out as the leaders of saying, it's still a problem. I can't figure out, it's too expensive. I can't get a payment gateway, drops ho rahe hain. And we said, now we'll have to pick up one of those 2 things. Payment gateways, there were many big companies, BillDesk was there, CC Avenue. There were companies that came along in those days. They were doing very, very well in building this new age.
Was there
PayU was there. So there were new age companies there. And we were too small to compete with them. So let's payments hata dete hain. Let's focus on logistics. And that's where we again came back on drawing board saying, let's build a product which can help solve logistics. And it's a long story, but that's how Shiprocket came along. There was one day we realized we have hit PMF. So after 1 year of Shiprocket journey, we were acquiring customers, everything was fine and things. 1 or 1.5 years, we decided to do a PMF test, as we call it today. We just shut down all marketing, shut down all sales, shut down all levers of any kind of outreach. And let's see for like 3 months what happens to Shiprocket. Do people still come looking for us? Do people still use the platform? Do people still need us? Luckily for us, there was organic demand coming in with no change actually. When we shut down our marketing, we were still getting exactly same amount of leads which we were getting without marketing. With marketing, that's where I think for us that was the biggest eureka moment saying, yeah, we found PMF. Because people are coming and looking for us, rather we have to force sell or do something like that.
Yeah. No, very, very important lessons, I'm taking from here. One is that PMF is when your customer comes back looking for you, right? In today's world, a lot of times raising money is considered PMF, which actually is not, which I think for budding entrepreneurs here, it's important that even if you do it with 100 customers or 200 customers, but those 100 or 200 customers really need to be in love with your product. That's when you hit PMF. But the second question I'm going to ask you about is resilience, right? In your journey, there was one product, and then there was second product. And whether you had the offers or not, but you as a founder weren't convinced that, hey, this is the model. So how long would you advise founders to wait and continue pivoting? Or is there an answer to that? Or somebody should just take a decade-long approach? What's the approach?
Honestly, there is no answer to that, because it would be unfair to people to say, yeah, keep on doing that, because some people just spend a lot of their golden years trying something which will not work, and you have lost a lot of years in your life. So it's not running after something. For us, it was resilience, while it might look like it, but as co-founders, we became good friends. We had a very good core team of 50, 100 people. We were all having so much fun doing this. For us, it was actually, we just think, yeah, idea was to stick together than make business work. Because we wanted to stick together, we kept on trying different projects. Like we want to stick together and try something out. For us, it was different. We wanted, and we were having fun. We were solving real problems. It was more from that side. The resilience came out saying, yeah, we will eventually make it work. Yeah. Even if the whole company doesn't work, we're going to start something together. So it was, the idea was to stick together. And the other big thing was, again, the family backgrounds and DNA came in. We raised some capital. For us, equity capital was no different than debt. It was always about, paise liye hain, we have to get back. Even if we don't make money for them, but they need to get their money back. So the whole thing was stemming from there, that I need to make it enough that I can pay them back, and even then I'm okay to saying, it's done.
No, so you're saying, one, have that resilience, but I think second, what you're saying is have fun in the process.
Absolutely, right? Which is most important.
You can't say that, hey, for 2 years, 3 years, I'm just going to slog, and then there is light at the end of the tunnel.
If what you're building or doing is getting you to a point of saying, you're not happy in your personal life, that is not worth it. No amount of money you make will be worth it. That's the thing.
Now, continuing with your early journey, right, the early years of Shiprocket, are there any one or two decisions, right, that you as a company made, and you feel that those were the reasons why we became what we became? Because I'm sure there were others trying to, work out on the same model, and some failed in the process. So what was different for Shiprocket?
Yes, for us, I think there were 2-3 very, very marquee events that happened to us. One of them was when Crafty shut down. We came to a level of layoffs because there was no project to run. We decided to pull the plug, and we were at about 250 people strong company back then with very, very less capital in bank. We can't sustain that. And that was one point. And I'm going to come to why Shiprocket, but this is a little bit important I want to mention.
Sure.
We ended up saying, let's do layoffs. And we called our teams one by one, ended up handing off those pink slips saying that we can't do this anymore. We don't know what's next. So we can't, it's really unfair for you to be around.
Correct.
70, 80, I think what I remember, came back. Target was to lay off 120 from the 250 workforce we had till we figure out what's next. 70, 80 folks came back to saying, we still want to be here and we don't want any salary, but let's just, till you figure out, we don't want any salaries, we just want to be in the journey. In the next 4-5 months, or our savings last, if we are still not figured out, we leave automatically, but fire mat karo. We just won't leave. And that was very pivotal for us. It gave everyone a new energy, new life, saying that people have given so much faith and confidence in you. You need to do something. I think that's one very, very important incident. And they all are still here. 10 years down the line, everyone's still here. We did made that. The other was in a fundraising journey, a lot of times we were given a lot of capital, offered a lot of capital, saying now you have so much customers data and whatnot, and a lot more models came around which were very, very highly valued than us. We were a company which was less than 100 million in valuation, with more revenues and more numbers, versus people, there were companies that came around with, let's say, billions in valuation with half the revenues that we had and everything else. A lot of pressure used to come around saying, why don't you just pivot into that? Clearly that's working and they're getting so much valuations for it.
Yeah.
For us, the pivotal point was we will not chase valuations. I think it's a fundamentally strong business. We have found unit economics. We're going to stick to that, and leaving away those offers and saying no to a lot of those things. But it was also personal wealth to raise at that high valuation and we would. Leaving those offers was great for us, because now, flash forward in today's days when we are seeing those a little bit slowdowns and everything, people are actually looking for fundamentally strong businesses.
Real businesses.
Real businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're saying cut the noise.
Yes.
Go after building a real business where there is a unit economics that makes sense.
I'll tell you a very easy way of recognizing what this means. It's in any business that you do, there should be never a point in time that you need to rely on external capital to pay salaries. If you are in that position, either you have overhired, either you don't need that many people, either your product is not making enough revenue. And I know there are contrary statements that I need money to build first and scale first and then I will do that. So where will I pay salaries from? I have an answer to that. There was a very, very many years of our journey. We had this separate unit inside the company. We were building a shopping cart, but shopping cart wasn't going to get us enough revenue to pay for my salaries. So what we did was, as we came from a web shop background, we carved out a team of 10, 15 people, 5 sales, 10 developers, everything else. We said, you do nothing. You have to just build websites, custom websites, and make revenue for the company. So we always had this one small engine that was nothing to do with the product SaaS. No fancy words.
But generate revenue.
Just generate revenue to pay for salaries.
Yeah.
And we still did have it. Even at our scale today, we have a separate business unit, which no one knows. I will not tell it here. My investors don't know about. But that unit has only one goal: to generate money to make sure that the salaries and at decided as par. So if you are reliant on external capital to pay salaries, you're in
not in good shape, basically.
Not in good shape, I will not say that, but it will be helpful. You will feel much more confident if you are not in that shape.
Correct. So you're saying when you take capital, take it for growth.
Yes.
But don't take it for your salaries and operational stuff that you're doing. That should be self-sustainable.
This is not true for seed. Once you need to put things together, I'm sure seed is different.
Yeah.
But as you scale, you get to series A, B. By that time, you should have figured it out. If not, then there's something wrong. Take a pause, look back, what's going wrong. But it can't take a series D, E, 5, 7 rounds. And you're saying, I'm still figuring out, I'm still scaling, I'm still trying to find my PMF.
Yeah.
Then something is going wrong.
Yeah, then you've created this monster that needs feeding all the time.
Yes.
Before we move away from your early journey, just another question. We talked about the right decisions you took, right? Any regrets or wrong decisions that today, looking back, you say, I shouldn't have done that?
There were many pre-Shiprocket, of course. By the time we also matured, by the time we hit Shiprocket, we already failed twice. For me, thrice. We had already made a lot of mistakes there then. So with Shiprocket, we were always very, very cognizant. Now I know what to do. So I'll stop listening to people. I think I've learned my lessons. But pre-Shiprocket, one regret was, there was a time when a lot of our investors came around saying, it's time, and this was the good times in the market, right? E-commerce was booming, everything was booming. I was given one statement: imagine there is enough unlimited money, go and scale. And we took that advice, saying that imagine there is unlimited money. You keep building, you keep scaling. Imagine there is unlimited money and go ahead and do it. After 4-5 years, we thought maybe we are doing something wrong, because we were still going slowly at certain pace, and there were companies coming around less than 6 months raising money at 500 mil, 400 mil. At one point, we also realized maybe we are doing something wrong and we are not up to the market level. We took that advice, burnt all our money in what we had in our bank, and went on a scale spree. When we actually needed the money, we realized the money is not there.
Yeah.
I think those were one of those things that teach you a valuable lifelong lesson that till the money is in bank, it's not there.
Yeah.
It's always the case. No matter how many term sheets you have, no matter what is happening to you, till the money is in your bank, it is not your money.
And be frugal, right?
And be always
That's
frugal.
the lesson I'm learning here, that be frugal.
At every stage, no matter how big you are.
And no matter how much money you have.
No matter how much money you have in bank.
Don't waste
this
it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Money is money. You have to respect it.
And consider it as a debt.
That's what we do. I still consider it as a debt.
Fair. Now, changing gears a little bit, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurs here who are trying to understand logistics as a space, supply chain as a space. So I'm going to ask you a little bit to go deep into that, right? I mean, there are many companies in logistics that we hear about, whether it's delivery, Shadowfax, yours. If you could just lay out the landscape for us,
Sure.
That, hey, these are the landscapes, these are the different plays, and these are the big names you're hearing. I think that will help everyone to just understand the logistics space as a whole.
Sure. So logistics as a space is interesting for a country like India. It's very, very widespread. A lot of people with very, very complicated address and geographical systems, right? Your sector 1 is next to sector 21, and it's just a complicated system for anyone to crack. There aren't right lat longs, there aren't anything else. Now that putting together, I'll take you through a 3-4 year journey of how logistics changed in India. 4-5 years ago, Flipkart, Amazon started their own logistics. Flipkart was built, it was less of an e-commerce company, more of a logistics company, because the only thing they cracked was best in class supply chain. And that is where it became a great experience to order from Flipkart, and that added a lot to their conversion. There wasn't a system available, and which Amazon did not have to do for the many, many years in the US, because USPS was there. They were doing great at what they did. So, and we did not have that. So that's where these companies had to insource it, which is not at all a great decision for an e-commerce company, which is anyways on a razor thin margins, to take over one more activity and capex and everything else. Luckily for them, they had way too much capital coming along, so they were able to sustain that operation, which is not true today. For a business, there are core functionalities and there are non-core activities, and that is where the opportunity lies. If I am running a D2C business, my core has to be innovative products, R&D, marketing, branding, but customer service, warehouse operations,
logistics and all of this.
Supply chain is not core to me. It's something, even if I solve, I won't get the value for it.
And you won't have the benefit of the scale also. No?
You won't have the benefit of the scale, and you can't solve it along the way, because even when you are, let's say, 100 orders a day, 3,000 orders a month, you have about 15,000, 20,000 inventory to sustain that kind of scale. There is no way you can have a warehouse on rent, because the fixed cost that comes along, hire a person, hire security, get admin expenses, get warehouse on rent, it will all collapse, which is not making sense. A lot of people are spending money there. So logistics has actually evolved a lot. There are a lot of opportunities around now. I would say that delivery came in at the right time. They did things with the tech back and packing, using technology to solve a lot that was a problem. Blue Dart was great, which was expensive. And given a DHL background, they were not innovating as much, which was needed in a country like India. And for new D2C companies and other folks, it wasn't natural. They can't build this. Someone had to come along and build this. So delivery did a great job at it, and now we see they've actually acquired FedEx after a point of time. So logistics today needs some new age or innovative version of it. It is not the same key, I'm going to buy planes, get trucks, get bikes, and start a company and deliver products. We are living in a time where there is enough assets available. There are, with Zomato, Swiggy scaled, Grab, these kind of gig economy coming together. There is enough assets on ground. Now what is needed, at least for the next 10 years in logistics, is someone connecting all of this supply chain into one single thread. So if I am running a business, I need access to various kind of logistics. There is B2B full truckloads. There is B2C single shipments. There is hyperlocal. So if an order is coming from, if I'm sitting here and the order is from phase 2 or phase 3 at Gurgaon, it doesn't make sense to do the traditional supply chain. So what will happen today if you do this? Delivery will come, pick it up from here, take it back to their hub somewhere outskirts of Delhi, sort it and bring it back tomorrow and deliver it here. Now you need those for each and every order. and we have been trying to do this a lot. For each order, a separate system of logistics is needed. Now you need to innovate on allocations of which order needs to be delivered by using what mechanism is different. That will come from having enough data of pick and delivery riders. So each partner is different. So now it's about using right allocations, using the assets that are already built. There is Zomato's fleet, which has thousands and maybe number of people on the ground, which only deliver like less than 4 hours a day, and they have almost 4 5 hours empty spaces.
Yeah.
Using those things is now the opportunity in logistics. Is using excess capacities and allocations is the next big opportunity. I think we have enough vehicles and bikers and everything on the ground.
No, I think it's more about using technology to leverage these assets than be an infrastructure play. Right? That's what you're saying. And I think Shiprocket has done a great job
we're trying
aggregating.
To do that. Same thing. It's like putting everything on one platform and then using allocation as a sensible allocations to use right partner for right order. It's not forget what happens to Shiprocket in the process. It's actually good for a lot of angles, for customer experience, for general environment. A package needs to travel less kilometers. For your end buyer or seller, his unit economics work out because he's now not losing as many parcels as he used to. His conversion getting better. The faster you reach, the better your conversion is, the better acceptance rate. So for entire ecosystem, this is now required.
Fair. Now, let's talk a little bit about the growth side of things, right? And you handle growth as well. And you've done a lot of acquisitions on the way. So tell us a little bit more about the kind of acquisitions you made, why you made them, and what kind of, assets or leverage were you expecting from these acquisitions?
So for us, I think we were at a scale. We found a unit economics positive business. So as a business, we did not need money anymore. But now you need to figure out the blitz scale, or what you call like a shortcut to scale version of it. The other thing was I already had 100,000 brands working on Shiprocket now. They were doing shipping with us. We were doing a great job at it. Maybe not, but we're doing a decently fine job at it in terms of they are still with us. So there's something happening there. The question was, how do I increase revenue? What we realized was, one thing is there's going to be a ceiling again. How many brands are there? At some point, I can, from 1 lakh, it was more looking macroeconomics and looking future of what will happen to Shiprocket 5-7 years down the line. What do I need to be? What is the version 5-7 years down the line? The problems I'm solving today might not exist 5 years down the line. So acquisition as a strategy was looking at not today, but many years ahead in our journey. And we are building a business that can last generations. So now, using that as a logic, what will happen? I need to increase ARPUs, because at a certain point, I will be at a stage where there will not be any more customers to acquire. We are today where Shiprocket kind of has a little bit of a market head start by acquiring our nearest competition and merging. The number 3 is a little far off, so we already are there. So after a point, you are there's only X you can scale up to. So acquisitions for us was a mechanism of saying, how do I increase my revenue per customer rather going after newer customers, which is anyways going to stop at some point. Now you look at a customer saying, what all does he do and who all does he pay? For supply chain, he pays me. But if there is a GMB, if there is an order that's 100 rupees, there is 30 rupees COGS, which is cost of goods that he's buying. There's about, let's say, 20 rupees packaging, 20 rupees marketing. Outside that, now we are left with another, I am making 10. There's still 20-22 rupees of a play that I can make in terms of, I can make some money there, right? That was a space there. So we went back talking to our customers, saying, "Kahan kharch rahe ho? What is happening?" So then we started realizing that there are a couple of activities that we don't do today where they actually use third-party services. One of them came along was a B2B supply chain. We were a B2C company, we were a tech company, we were doing only B2C shipment aggregation. They said B2B bhi hota hai hamara, because we also send to retailers, send to shops.
Other businesses,
The first acquisition we did was Glockus in the process, which was a B2B supply chain company. They were already doing this. They have the right technology, the right system. We said, if we acquire this technology and the team, for us, it's more of the team. And we raised a large round because we also had to correct our valuations at some point. Because from investors' interest standpoint, At some point, you need to do that. You can't raise a capital and build a lifestyle business. So that's also the case. So once we had our capital raised, the question was what to do with the money. The business doesn't need that. So acquisition was the right strategy to figure this out. The first company was Locus, a B2B supply chain company. Plugged them in, doing great. Now we do B2B services for you. So I get another 3-4 rupees off their pie.
Yeah.
The second thing they came around was Meta or Facebook marketing was getting very, very expensive by the day. So people were really struggling with the demand side of it. Their conversion was dropping. They were struggling with marketing. And they were paying a lot of money to solve for conversions and marketing technologies. And the second thing came around was Wixo, which was a marketing conversion tool. Again, I have the distribution. If I can distribute your technology to my customers, we both grow. So we acquired them, which is a great use case study. We acquired them, and it's okay to share numbers. We acquired them at 2 million at revenue ARR when they were at 2 million. 6 months and into their journey with Shiprocket, they scaled to 10 million because suddenly the power of distribution came around.
Yeah.
It worked for everyone. Worked for us, worked for them. Now the business scaled super fast. We kept on doing this activity of saying that I need another 2 rupees. I need another 2 rupees of their
share of wallet.
So kept on, the idea was where are they spending? Then looking out an opportunity and company and going on an acquisition journey of offering them more and more services to increase more revenue per customer rather than continue on a journey of saying that I'm going to forever acquire new customers.
Because you already have the customer, you have the trust built with them, they have experienced you. So it's just much better of getting more and more share of wallet than you going after somebody new.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, it's a revenue play. The more you can get of one customer, it's easier, let's say.
It's that LTV to CAC, right? And the CAC has been spent now.
Now it's all about expanding.
It's all about increasing your numerator, which is the LTV.
Yes.
Fair. So now when we have talked about the landscape, we have also talked about how a big company like yours acquires, smaller startups. The question to you is, for somebody who's trying to think and make a startup in the logistics supply chain, industry, what gaps do you still see that you would say that, hey, this is probably a problem statement that I would pay for, but hasn't been solved yet?
Still numerous, actually. Let me put one thing honestly out there. It's very, very important to realize that you are only relevant up till a time. The problems we are solving today, industry will solve them automatically a couple of years down the line. The system needs to evolve. The problems we are solving today are the gaps in the operational capabilities of supply chain. But which is not going to be the case. They really will become bigger. They will get better at what they do.
Anyway, let's switch gears a little bit again, right? Now I want to move to the third section, which is more on the advice for budding entrepreneurs, right? Now, one of the things that we picked up with your journey, and I asked earlier as well, was the resilience part of it, right? Now, somebody who's thinking of starting today, would you say it's important to have the DNA, or do you think it can be cultivated? How have you seen other entrepreneurs be? Has somebody trained themselves to be an entrepreneur?
One thing I would rather say, entrepreneurship is the outcome of a lot of hunger, which is personality. You need to be always aspiring for bigger and better things because only then you will be motivated and pushed. A lot of times, and you all are lucky, you are in a course and a curriculum which is, you already thought that I want to do something. You're there. A lot of times people get stuck into a system of college, job, and then you get comfortable with a certain pay scales and certain money coming in. You build your lifestyle around that money and everything else. What happens in that scenario? The risk ability is actually going down every time. Because you are very comfortable. An entrepreneur can never be satisfied. It's not just money, but with anything in life. Your scale, your company, the money you're making, the car you're driving, the house you're living. If there is a point in time you are satisfied and you're saying it's enough, it stops going down. So every individual needs to be aspiring for bigger and better things. And this is very personal suggestion. I think that keeps the drive on. The other is, some point, if you even are in the journey of saying that I need to learn first before I jump into running a company, I need to get the experience. So treat your careers and your jobs in the exactly same way. When you enter a job, stop fighting for appraisal, stop fighting for everything else. Treat your journey as I'm here to learn. I don't care what I'm paid for. I don't care if I join a smaller company. I would advise to join smaller companies rather larger ones, because if the end goal, treat your careers as means to an end, and just try to learn and be involved with a lot of company. A lot of times you say, yeah, I'm only paid peanuts. Why should I even do all of this?
Yeah.
A lot of, for many people I've seen who are successful, it worked for them. They didn't care what they were making in a job, because for them, all those years was like your course. They were doing their MBAs in those jobs while getting paid for it. So whatever they were paying, they were happy. It's what, take as much as you can, absorb as much as you can before you get out. So it's aspiration, of course, is the biggest thing. You can never be satisfied with what you have if you want to grow from every point on.
Yeah, I think for me that translates to DNA in somewhat, right? It may not be the skill set that we talk about the DNA, but it's also about how you think. If you don't have that aspiration, or if you think as, this is what I need to get paid and I'm okay with a 9 to 8 or 9 to 9, whatever that job is. But if you're not thinking of that job as a learning opportunity, then that entrepreneurship DNA may not come to you.
Entrepreneurship is not just, I want to start my business. Entrepreneurship is also to grow into your own career. As if you're even working in a corporate job, you still need to be an entrepreneur to grow into that job.
Correct.
Because while you are working, you are still building your own career.
You're building your skill set.
You are either a P&L owner, you are either a business owner, you are either a sales head. Each and everything inside a corporate system is a business in itself.
Yeah.
So even to grow into a corporate ladder, you need to be an entrepreneur, because you need to have that same skill sets to grow and get promoted, and from being a sales guy to being the sales head to being the CEO.
And the sense of ownership.
Sense of ownership.
That this is my job, I will get it done.
Even if you are at a positions of CXOs in a company, right? Each of them are, you will only get there because you have sense of ownership. Because I will only hire a CXO because I don't want to do that job.
Correct.
If I don't want to do that job, or I can't do that job, either or, right?
Absolutely.
Then I will hire someone who can do that job, and he needs to have that ownership and the qualities and skill sets to operate a team of hundreds, run a business, see the numbers. It's everything that an entrepreneur needs.
On that question, right, when you say that you would hire a CXO, right, and I have seen companies needing different skill sets at different stages, right? 0 to 1 is all about hustle, get the work done. And at the 1,000 level, it's all about what's the strategic move we are taking. So at Shiprocket, how have you been able to train your people, or maybe change those people? But what has been that journey?
I think for us, as we scaled, we realized that the process and the ways of doing things have to change. Because right now I have 100,000 businesses relying on me. I cannot have a tech architecture or a system that can experiment. I cannot go down. I cannot be shut for even half an hour or 10 minutes, let's say.
Yeah.
We are not there. Maybe a few years ago, if we crashed for maybe, let's say, an hour or so, while it's still not good, but I could have done that. You could manage, but it's the cost you pay for speed of development. So when do you do what is a question?
Yeah, I know a lot of them want to ask you questions. So I'm just going to ask you one last question and then open it up for Q&A. My last question is that we hear this a lot, that the whole startup ecosystem is a nexus of IIT and IIM alumni, right? Do you think that's true? And do you think it's a disadvantage if somebody doesn't come from that background? Or do you think it's a fair playing field?
It is not true. Let me put that out there. It might be 10 years ago, but we have evolved. It's all about numbers now. Every analyst, individual fund, any semi-smart, half-smart, people are now only after numbers. They don't care who's running a business. One of my investors, actually, when invested in us, never met us, saying that people can die, businesses don't. So I don't care about you. I care about your numbers. So when he invested, I don't want to meet you. I don't even want to talk to you. Just send me your MIS, your numbers. And I will only invest based on numbers. And he lives by that philosophy. He's saying people die, people leave, people just change. Business numbers don't lie.
And I'm investing in the business.
I'm investing in the business,
not the
you.
people.
Versus a lot of 90% of them think I'm investing in people.
Correct.
So it's a different mindset, but I think today's world, everyone, if you can put some level of high level numbers together, there are more investors or more money than entrepreneurs today. Luckily, we are at that stage today.
Yeah.
Where there are more people looking for you than you are looking for them. It's a different world. So it's not true, yes. There is no disadvantage of not being from IIT or an IIM. It's also not even an advantage now. That does not guarantee that you are going to get your first seed check anymore. It
True.
used to be, it's not.
At some point, it used to be.
It used to be. I think, and whatever I am seeing now, people are now very, very mature in looking through people and actually the quality of business rather than what people, where they come from. Because a lot of people have proven them wrong as well.
Correct.
What has happened over the years is a lot of times, a lot of smart folks have proven a lot of people wrong.
Yeah.
By building what they have, by being where they are.
Yeah, and there have been many examples, as you said, of people who know how to build businesses.
Yeah.
And that's what matters, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, irrespective of where you come from.
Yes.
No, I think that has been a great conversation, Vishesh.
Absolutely.
I think what we'll do is open it up for Q&A. So I think we can have a mic, or you can just,
Yes, I can hear you. We
yeah.
can just do it. That's fine.
While I'm not sure if Shiprocket is already doing it, but I'll still shoot my question. Since Shiprocket has data of the pickup locations as well as delivery location and their repetitive pattern as well, why doesn't Shiprocket try to build their own logistics and offer better pricing to onboarded sellers? Here I'm assuming that of course a markup you charge here I'm assuming that there's of course a markup Shiprocket charges on base charges charged by companies like FedEx, or maybe you guys probably work on commissions. Because you said what you're solving for today may not need solving tomorrow.
Yeah.
So why not build a business around a need which won't die while you can?
So, yes, there is an opportunity because I have the volumes to now, and also the resources and the money to say, I'm going to now become a supply chain or a courier company myself. It seems obvious, obviously, but we were discussing that, right? There is enough assets on ground that does not need replication now. I think that's a conscious call we have taken. The margin opportunity, and this is the maths, it's a pure financial maths around it. The margin opportunity of the capex that I need to do to build a company versus the additional margin I'm going to make from it is not great. While if I am at X percentage today, I might add another 5, 7, 10 of percentage more, which I can actually do by acquiring these companies and selling them, upselling them newer technologies, versus going through a cycle of saying, now I have to do a lot of, to set up the supply chain company, it takes a lot of capital, which is...
But isn't that what logistics companies are exactly doing? They're able to do that, right?
Exactly. It was needed up till 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? I think companies like Delivery are doing a great job at it. They are solving for a lot. They've already invested a lot to do this. You don't need to reinvent, and that's our personal call and personal choice. It's also to do with, we are a tech company as individuals, as founders. What are you good at is something that you need to recognize. I think we aren't the best people to run an on-ground supply chain company. I think we are good at solving using technology. While it may look like an opportunity, I think it's also different people are needed to build different businesses.
Thank you.
So adding on to Ashish's question, so what I was thinking when Ashish told, and before that also, that why not aggregate a lot of local players that are there? Because I have a manufacturing unit and we deal with a lot of courier service. So our courier partners who are there for local, like MP has one particular vendor who does it for MP. Someone does it for UP. So why not aggregate them and provide them as technology that they can integrate?
So we already do that. Because we work with purely D2C customers today, I think they have a lot of preconceived notions about working and allocating to a certain brand. But as a company, as platform, we already have all of the local partners. Let's say Sri Maruti in a certain region, or the South India has this dominant player, A to Z, Maharashtra has a dominant player. So we already have integrated them on the platform. While they do certain sets of volumes, they're not a lot of volumes doing. So it's also because the choice of allocation is still up to the sellers, right? They choose what they want to use. We offer them all. We have about 28 of them on the platform.
That's you have them on your platform. I'm talking about just branding it as Shiprocket service, and collaborating with them. You will
It's a
utilize the
conscious-
resources and
Yeah. One thing, if we start branding them as Shiprocket services, there is a risk there. The risk is, I am right now a demand pipe to all of these courier companies like Delivery and Blue Darts and everyone else. Suddenly they start, if I do that, I make them my own network. Suddenly it's also like becoming one of the courier companies and saying that now you are competing with us. So I can't be a competitor and a partner at the same time. So it's also a conscious call of saying, yeah, I will keep my arm's length. I will enable them on the platform and leave it as a democratized platform that people can choose to use them, not choose to use them. I cannot be the one influencing any platform because then the technology fails. Our job is to make it open, keep everyone on the platform, and then technology take decisions on which order to which courier company. We can't influence that because then the business we are in is not working out the same way.
Hello. So before coming here, I was working in Spinny as operations manager in Chennai.
So you're working where?
Spinny.
Spinning. Okay.
Yeah. So that is again a B2B.
Yeah.
So major problems which I used to face was once the order has been shipped with one of the India's biggest logistic provider, I used to face delays in delivery. So there used to be a lot of issues with RTOs and NDR.
Yeah.
So now you don't own the logistic provider, you are a logistic aggregator. So how does the Shiprocket add value in these kind of issues?
So because we don't own it, we are in a better position to solve for it. Why is that? Again, now let's go back. Everything can be solved looking at data. Now let's go back and see if point A to point B, if I have done, and that's only possible now because now I am at a scale. If I have done that same distance or same pin codes more than 1 million, 2 million times, I have a fair sense here who is the right guy for this channel or this lane. Because in 1 million times I have seen the best performing partner. That's one part of the play. The other, RTO is all about keeping the customer appraised of what is happening with his order. What are the reasons for an RTO? Because we are a two husband-wife couple living in a house. We are not there Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The biggest reason is I am not available at home. Right? That was one biggest reason. The other is if it's a cash on delivery order, while I'm available, I don't have the cash required for it. Or I can't find the address that you have given to me. So now again, using technology, you can solve all three of them. Step one is how do you solve for I am not available at home? You give them the opportunity to schedule, saying that before the order is already on the way, I will send them a message on WhatsApp saying that you might not be available. Do you want to give me a time slot? That time slot, we can pass it back to the supply chain company. So he can say, "Yaar, abhi mat lao, give it to me on a Saturday. I'm available full day. Monday to Friday I'm working." Great. That's one solve. The other is I don't have cash, so I can send them before the order is reaching. I can send them a prepaid link that now it's already left the warehouse. People don't do prepaid because they're not sure whether my order is coming or not. So once the order is left, it's on your way. I can actually send them a link that you can just convert this order from a COD to prepaid, and I can leave it with your neighbors, your guards, anywhere, because now I've converted it. So it's not required to have cash handy. The third is address accuracy. So again, we have a repository of right addresses because we have done that so many times. So we actually do a lot of address corrections on the fly. So if you have given me some snippets of your address, I will automatically correct it to the right address that I know a courier guy can understand and deliver. So solving using technology is much easier than owning the supply chain network yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Vishesh, love your point around the entrepreneurship and your take on entrepreneurship and specifically the entrepreneur in residence that you have. Wanted to know what exactly do you look when you look at these EIRs and what's your take on the whole thing?
I think for me, it's very, very important for members. One, of course, having very, very high aspirations about themselves or what they want to do in their careers. The other is analytical. So I've had great success in people who are super analytical. For example, one of the gentlemen I had was working with a fund, evaluating startups. He became a great EIR for me because in his journey of whatever 2-3 years he spent in that ecosystem, he evaluated so many businesses for the fund. He had a very fair sense of right and wrong businesses and what it takes to be a right business, numbers and all things. Those kind of skill sets really matter because if you can read data, if you can rely on data for answers, you can be a great operator in any world. Because if you can't guesswork, if you can look at Excel and talk to Excel and find answers in an Excel, you're great at whatever you do.
Hi, Vishesh. Just want to understand. So again, you talked about the fact that as a company, you don't want to get into the courier side of things because again, it's a space where there's a lot of players as well. And again, a lot of them are already doing it. But say if I give you an example, so like FedEx exited, handed over the operations to delivery. FedEx for a long time was the only company that D2C brands could trust with items that were fragile.
Yes.
Okay, and it's still an issue because the moment they exited, delivery again screwed it up.
Yes.
Because delivery, you still can't trust them with fragile items. I'm just trying to understand. So on one side, you're saying that there are obviously these players who are already in the space, but at the same time, I feel like at a core operational level, things are not perfect, and the focus from these brands as well is more towards how do we use technology to solve problems rather than trying to go back and see, can we fix these operations? Is that something that you pass on like as a feedback to, these companies? Well, how are you as a brand solving that problem? Because if I'm a partner, I will just come and complain to you.
Of course.
I will not go to delivery and say, "Mera order ye ho gaya."
No, I completely get it. So one thing, I think it's not, I'll just clarify one thing. It's not that there are many players, just a messy space that we don't want to enter into. I think it's a space where there's an opportunity for a lot more companies to build. I think for us as individuals, we are not the right set of people to build for that. To run on-ground logistics, I think we don't have the right experience and skill sets to do that. We can try and solve it using technology a lot. Now, how are we solving for situations like these, that specialized cases like fragile? I think we can solve it by onboarding a lot more specialized vendors for certain things. For example, we started our cross-border business, and in cross-border, precious jewelry is actually an opportunity. People do a lot of business there. To do that, you can't even rely on any of the traditional partners. Now you have to go back to a very, very specialized service provider who has done this for the last 50 years and only does this, who has the experience and the know-how to only manage specialized precious jewelry across countries and the documentation and everything around it. I think for us, we will try to onboard a lot more partners with specializations in certain areas and in certain categories. For example, glass bottles and beverages is a category, or cold chain is a category that not a lot of supply chain companies are designed for. There are new age companies who are designing only for cold chain. So we have onboarded one of those on the platform. Now we are actually encourage a lot of them to use them if there is a fragile or a beverage movement happening. Because their entire supply chain, the trucks that they've onboarded, the quality of technology they have is designed around beverages and glass bottles.
Fair enough. I just have two more questions, then I'll pass it on to someone else. On the RTO side, you mentioned 3 reasons that RTOs happen. There's other aspects as well. Like RTOs would also often happen in tier 2, tier 3 cities where customers just out and out refuse delivery. Or your shipping executives, like the individuals that are actually taking the order, will just mark it as, oh, customer refused delivery at the time of this thing. And that's one of the biggest sort of cat and mouse kind of chase between some of your vendors versus D2C brand owners, because they will simply mark the status as customer refused delivery. So how is Shiprocket essentially solving that problem? Because from a D2C brand standpoint, there's a lot of frustration.
And we were talking about it very, very. It's one of the problems I think we have worked the hardest on. I'll divide it in 2 parts. The first is the bad buyer. I think now we are in a position because we have data of 100 million buyers and their journey across e-commerce websites, not just yours, but various websites. Now I can actually identify how good or bad a buyer you are. How many times do you actually refuse after ordering? I have started something called Sense APIs, which is buyer scoring. Now we are scoring buyers based on their behaviors and even using a lot more channels to get those data. And I can actually just not show you cash on delivery as an option even before checkout, saying that I'm not going to offer you that. That's step 1. The other is courier guy saying that he never went to that particular location and just said कि यार मैं तो try कर लिया, phone किया उठाया नहीं, done, refused. That's about being lazy and whatever. There we have this solid technology arrangement with only a couple of top ones where the lat long. So where you are, if you are at the location, you can only mark it as failed delivery by reaching that lat long. So we at least make sure that you are in the radius, because lat longs are not super accurate, but we at least ensure that you are in that radius and you're not sitting at your home saying, marking all of them, I tried, nahi hua. So that level of technology helps us all, because if he's not in the radius and he's marking as non-delivered, we automatically penalize the courier company for it, saying that this was incorrect. He never went there.
Fair enough. And last question, just you exited, again, you sort of pivoted from CartRocket. Given how much success Shopify has had in India and you have Dukaan also sort of trying to create a market there, is there a regret that, you know what, maybe perhaps there was a market for it, we just didn't wait long enough? And if that is the case, then how do buyers decide?
It's also about survival, right?
Founders.
We exited that business in 2014. The opportunity is in 2022. So I think there's no way to look into the future. But the times we were doing that at the time, there wasn't enough demand to have an online business for various reasons. Today there is. Maybe today is the best time to build that. But of course, in the time we were in, we could not see that happening.
So as a founder, how do you decide? You want to wait for 1 year, 2 years, that's it?
Well, I think it was our numbers started shrinking, and we are a very data-driven business, guys, in terms of when my data started telling me that there is more churn than more new acquisitions. It was obvious that not today, but 3 years down the line, it will die. So it was also the data decision, back decision, this is not working. You need to step forward.
So following up on the question that Prabhu asked with you. So with your vendors, how do you maintain quality control and check with your vendors? Because on-ground logistics is not something that is controlled with Shiprocket. It's your delivery partners who are doing it. And you're essentially a logistics tech company who's providing platform. So what are the issues that you faced with the vendors and how do you tackle it? How do you ensure that this is something that you would be able to organize the whole sector in the coming years?
So I'll again use, like I said, we take all our decisions backed by data. Now, how do I control an experience of a delivery? If you have done a delivery many times over, you know the exact journey of that order. So let me use an example. If there is an order that's going from Gurgaon to Lower Parel in Bombay, right? Now, based on my experience of the data I have, I know exactly when that order needs to be where. For example, at a certain stage, it needs to be picked up before 12 in the morning to be able to reach next day at evening. Now, if it's not picked up, of course, there's a delay. It's not going to reach next day. It's going to reach day after. So the communication and tracking goes to the customer accordingly. That your order is coming not tomorrow, but day after. So just setting up expectations. The other is, it has to be before 5 p.m. because the flight flies at 5. I know it has to be in the airport hub before 5 p.m. to be able to be loaded into that flight that's going to Bombay in the evening. If it is not reached there, we can now intervene and tell you, either I can call the courier company. There's a lot of operations involved, whatever company. But I can now start flagging those orders which are now delayed and now intervene in the process. Call up the guys, where is the order? Why it's not picked up? Why is it not here? Now manual process enters. I have a team of like hundreds of operations guys who are actually now picking up the phone and solving for these, because all their job is the second they get notified that this order might be delayed, they start taking actions and start calling and finding and locating that packet. And I need to know it has to be offloaded from a flight in Bombay if it has to be delivered. So, you know the journey. At any point in the journey, if it's not reached a certain stage, it will not reach the other stage on time. So it's about keeping the quality by using that flags and intervening by using calls and everything else. Fully manual, but yes, it works.
One follow-up. So in the coming years, how do you plan to reduce this operational part that you have with the hundreds of team and the callers in place?
So I think that's what we're trying to do with the bots, the chat bots, the call bots. Logistics as a business is great. The only questions that one can ask you is around my order. He's not going to ask weather reports. All he's going to ask you is, where is my order, when it's coming, broken. Very set of 5-7 standard queries. We can actually automate a lot of responses using the algorithmic AIs and everything else. So we are actually solving by implementing a lot of automatic chatbots in communication systems, saying that if I can read what you're asking, I can just fetch my APIs to answer. Why do I need a human to answer? So that's what we're doing to reduce it.
Hi Vishesh, I'm Gautam. During COVID, there were a lot of localized lockdowns. And there were supply chain disruptions. So how did Shiprocket build resilience? And is there any supply chain restructuring you have done to tackle that?
Yeah, we did not do any restructuring. I think what we did, obviously we can't do anything about the localized lockdowns and supply chain disruptions. What we could and we did well was communicate accordingly. So it wasn't a black hole that someone has ordered and he wasn't in a situation where he had no idea what's happening. And they were all in COVID, we were all very, very sympathetic about a lot of things, right? We did realize the problems on ground. So people were not willing to wait for it. Only and only then if they knew what's happening with that packet. So we kept on our communication alive, saying that your packet has reached this hub, it's local delivery, if you can come and please collect it, or I can only come there once I'm allowed. So there was a lot of communication going back and forth with the customers, keeping them updated on their orders rather than solving it, because that's again out of control.
I have one more question. I'm working on something called something on pet e-commerce platform. Where how do you suggest? How do I proceed pet logistics?
Pet logistics in terms of pet accessories or the pets?
Actual pets.
So yeah, I have no experience in the pets so far. Really sorry for that, but I think we have never encountered a situation where we actually had to transport live pets so far.
Yeah, please.
This one's a broad question. How are you handling the weight discrepancies and the claims? Because essentially, it's not your guys who are picking up, neither are your guys delivering. So you don't know, but the claims are being raised to you.
We have actually did numerous things on that.
And I also want to understand the economics behind, like who pays for this ultimately.
Great. So it's a longer answer, but I'm going to do it in a shorter version of it. So there are 3-4 versions of it. How we have tried to solve this is, one is of course, we have a packaging department in the company, like a packaging, selling packets or boxes in the business, right? So first thing we do is, if you buy packaging from me, I have these barcoded boxes, 5 kg, 1 kg, 2 kg, 2.5 kg. And those barcodes are now accepted by the courier companies and their scanners and everywhere else. So if the box is scanned by my barcode, I automatically know it's half kg or 1 kg. So there's no discrepancy there, because now you're using my box. That's one step. The other is around having a lot of data around categories. So weight discrepancies is a problem of scanning. The scanners are not enough, accurate to a level. Because if you're sending in a flyer, we call it corners. So अगर आपने flyers को पूरा fold नहीं किया, एक edge बाहर निकल रही है. Suddenly that flyer becomes from half a kg packet to 1.5 kg. While it is not, because वो एक कोना volumetric में वो आ गया है, वो scan हो गया है. Those are very simple problems. Now we have data around which category or which product SKU weighs what. अगर वो जूता है तो वो नहीं होगा 2 किलो से कम. If it's a toothbrush, it can't be more than 1 kg. If it's so now marking weight to categories is another tech solve, which I automatically override your weight. If you have shipped something, if you have shipped a pair of shoes, adult shoes, and you have said it's half kg box, I will automatically override it because I know it's not a half kg box. And the last is around how do you solve discrepancies, and in doing everything, now there are discrepancies. So there we have something called a P&L experience system, where if you as a seller, I have a business running with you, I make, let's say, 2-3 lakhs a month from your business as my money. I made that kind of margin from you. And in a year, I will kind of park certain amount of that same money into a fund, saying that if there are discrepancies, rather getting into an argument with the seller saying, main sahi hu, aap sahi hu, and going through that back and forth and spending money in manpower and other things, I would refund it from my pocket. So I've made that, but that needs to be in a certain contained maths which works, because I know that you don't do it often. You are not scamming me. I know that you are not doing this very, very frequently, and it is working in my maths. I actually made that kind of business from you. To keep that business alive, I will actually use the same margin and pay it back from there.
But don't you raise the similar claims to the companies, because it's ultimately their loss, their problem?
We do raise it from the supply chain companies, but we are not holding your refunds till we get from them, because that's again a longer communication cycle between 3 parties. That's a hit we are willing to take. We get it, great. We don't, great. That's a risk we are willing to take across the P&L systems.
So what would be that ratio? 1, 3, 5?
It's a very, very, it's a math that runs on a real-time algorithm. We don't really put a standard rule to it. It's a very, very dynamic limit that each seller gets based on behaviors. It's a completely real-time limit.
Thank you so much, Vishesh.
It's a hypothetical situation. Consider I am running an e-commerce company. and to gain the trust from the initial customers, I need to give cash on delivery. So I have provided cash on delivery for the customer, and the product went. And it may take some 7 days for the shipping for the delivery. Now, when will I get? If a logistic provider is there, once he collect the money, maybe 7 days or after that, I'll get the money. But now in this ecosystem, Shiprocket is an aggregator over there. So how is Shiprocket handling this? Will there be any delivery from the Shiprocket side, or is it going to be extended for getting the money back?
It's actually on the contrary opposite. So we actually did a lot of fintech products in the company, where you can, if you want the money right now, if I know the product is delivered, I can pay you the money right now. If I have the status updated. So you can just go to Shiprocket panel saying that obviously there's a small charge to it. There's a small finance charge to it. But if I know the package delivered, sooner or later I will get the money. So there's no question. It's only about the time and clerical time in that. So you can just click a button called early COD. I can just pay you right now. And while it can come in the system later also, but it's separate. But on the normal process without paying a finance charge, it is actually as similar or earlier than you would get from a courier company, because what my agreement with my supply chain partners would be different than yours. I get remittances daily versus you might not get daily. You will fall into a cycle. So because we are a large customer to them, we can kind of do some changes there. So I get daily, I pay you daily.
Okay. So extension, in the same situation, the customer has rejected the order. Now will Shiprocket help me in the reverse logistics as well? Or
Yes. Automatically the order will come back to you.
Okay, with the same logistic provider.
Same logistic provider. Or any other, that's okay, but it will come to you, back to you, to your warehouse irrespective.
Okay, thank you.
So hi again. So I wanted to know what's your take on ONDC, and do you see it as a competitor, and will that supplement you by increasing the bucket as a whole? And what's your take on that?
See, we are actually a provider of ONDC. I think my view on the countries and government projects have changed phenomenally over the last couple of years. With the success of UPI, with the success of GST implementations, I think ONDC is one of those projects. If someone asked me in the old times of India, I would have completely discounted it. Yeah, theek hai, these things will never take off. But I think after meeting the individual heading ONDC, Thambi Koshi sir, I think he is the perfect guy to run this. It's a great concept. It will take time to get there. But I think like UPI, no one expected the blowout what we saw. I think ONDC is going to be one of those things which will blow out very, very fast. We consciously are working with them. There is no competition there. We are on the platform. We are offering all what we have built to ONDC on their platform. We are working closely with them to get this sorted. But I think it's a great opportunity for us. If this works, it will be good for everyone.
Awesome. I think we've been able to answer most of the questions. So thank you, Vishesh, for being here. I think we learned a lot today. We learned about building real business, treating VC money as a debt. I think that's one of the things I always tell every entrepreneur, that it's
Then we'll.
True. No, so thanks a lot. I think a good round of applause for Vishesh.
Thank you guys.